is up? Yay! We getting it, boy.
What's good? You know who it is. It's your boy, Jay in the Bay.
Your baller back again. Smells like football season.
Yo. Whoa.
What is up, San Francisco 49er faithful fans? The 49ers clinch the 1 seed. What a way to kick off a new year. I got my man right next to me, Jay in the Bay Area baller right below. I'll start with you, Jay. What's up with it, man?
What's good? Hey, man. Is there another time where it could be better to be a 49ers fan, man? Hella excited. Number 1 seed. Got to definitely send a care package to the Cardinals. They did us a huge solid. And, man, excited to hang out with you fellas. Hopefully Amin will join us. But, hey, I'm excited to be here and excited to be a Niner fan. We got big things coming up in our future.
Let's get it. What up, E? How you feeling, man?
Hey, I'm feeling great. I echo Jay's sentiments. It's an awesome time to be a 49er fan. This is what the 49ers have wanted to accomplish all year long. You know, getting that bye, getting home field. They're not going to have to hop on a flight until if they make the Super Bowl. That's the next time these guys got to hop on a flight. So the rest is there, and I'm really excited for what's in store, what we got coming up.
Absolutely, real talk, man. It's hey, you said it the best right there, E. It's like, man, we don't even got to get on a flight, you know, and that's going to be one of the topics later on, rest versus rust. Y'all see it, on the screen. We got the rundown right there, but we're going to just go over general thoughts about this game. We'll start, I'll just give my little take, and hey, man, we bounced back. We took care of business. We did what we had to do. There was a good part of that game where I was like, man, we're missing turnovers. Where is the defense with turnovers? And sure enough, probably 5-10 minutes after I had those thoughts and those feelings, there's Mooney Ward. Was it Lenore? I think, it feels like Lenore was close to getting like 3 of them. You know what I'm saying? What a game by Lenore. So, Lenore got his, and I know he gets so frustrated when he doesn't get the 2 or the 3 because there's a lot of games where he's, where those numbers in the next year or two can definitely go up for Lenore. Purdy obviously bounced back. The 49ers bounced back just all the way around. Of course, versus an opponent like the Washington, I almost said Redskins, but the Commanders, I'm sure they'll switch a name again. But yeah, man, we did what we had to do. We went to the East Coast, and we've been successful heading out that way. We got the one. It couldn't be any better, for what you can accomplish in the regular season. Those are the goal. The goal is your division, and then 1 seed, obviously, for Super Bowl hopes like we got. So, hey, we're right there, fellas. We don't have any major injuries, and I hope you have the injuries at some point in time, Jay, in the Bay. Breaking news today, Ambry Thomas with his hand. I don't know too much about it, so I'll just, I'd like to think that it's, from what I've heard, he should be available come playoffs, but I think our biggest concern is Eric Armstead. He obviously makes a difference for this team. But when I'm just looking at the bigger picture, we besides Hufanga, we haven't faced any like real catastrophic injuries. So we went through this regular season. I know there's 1 game left, but we locked up the 1 seed. The injuries are down. We can rest everybody next week. We'll see what happens there. So I'm just, I'm juiced up, but it is opening up concerns I have for the crunch time moments. I'll leave it there. I'll save it for the rest of the for a later part in the show. I'm thinking if there's anything else that stood out to me in a major way versus the Commanders. Nah, man, just the excitement even after the game, watching them watch the Eagles lose. That was huge. Watching how much this team loves each other. I think just continues to speak louder and louder the more we get to see, just the moments of, guys just being authentic to each other. And this is a family and they're all dug in. And so those were my takeaways, man. I'll let you start it off. Eric, Bay Area baller. What were your general thoughts, man?
Niners, it felt like the Niners were in control for the large part of this game. The only thing that, kept it close, you got to settle for a couple field goals early, let the Commanders kind of hang around. But, anytime you win the turnover differential 2-0, and then like the time of possession was almost double. The Niners doubled the time of possession of the Commanders. So, Niners were in control. That being said, it was 2010 there. I want to say it was in the third quarter. 2010, Commanders are driving down the field. They get it in the red zone. And then who comes up with the clutch INT? Charvarius Ward, fellas, is playing like a top 5 corner in the NFL. So love to see it there. Game-changing play. I was kind of the game clincher for me. McCaffrey, guys, in the first half, McCaffrey had 17 touches. That's a lot of touches, in a half. And then unfortunately he gets nicked with the calf, but Eli Mitchell comes in, steps up. I thought he was pretty darn good. Eli Mitchell was. That being said, like you said, Kelch, it was a great bounce back game for Brock Purdy. Coming off the 4 picks, he was back to being the quarterback, that we know and love, where he's so good playing within structure. He's hitting. And I noticed, guys, I don't know if you guys feel the same sentiments, but instead of attacking over the middle like they did previously, and Brock threw some picks, it felt like the Niners were attacking outside the numbers, with Ayuk on some corner routes, with Kittle on some out routes. So it was nice to see that. Brock cleaned it up. He was the guy we know and love, took care of the ball. So that was great to see, because you want to get him feeling good, get that confidence back, which I don't think he ever even lost confidence. I think Brock Purdy is unflappable, but still, it's nice to have him kind of have that rhythm game heading into the playoffs here. Just big time win, and thank you, Cardinals.
Hey, absolutely. I gotta say, what's good to everyone that's in the chat right now. If you guys are excited about your Niners getting that number 1 seed, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. And Happy New Year to everyone as well that's watching. Hopefully you guys had a safe, happy New Year. But after the disappointing loss to the Ravens on Christmas night, it felt like the Niners needed to get back to basics, and that's kind of what they did. Eric alluded to it earlier, 17 touches for McCaffrey in the first half. I think on the first drive, he touched the ball at least 7 times. That's much different in comparison to the game against the Ravens, where CMC was absent from the game plan, at least on the first and second drive. So the Niners got back to basics, got back to running the ball with CMC. It's unfortunate he got nicked up, but, Elijah Mitchell played excellent coming in. I think that was the first double-digit carry game for Elijah Mitchell. He looked pretty good. Elijah I don't think he played in a game since Philly, I believe, December 3rd. So it was good to see him out there. But it just felt like after, I would say, the Niners got that touchdown to Ayuk, hell of a play by Brock, spin out of the would-be tackler and then do something that you're taught not to do. You throw across your body to Ayuk, even though he was open, but that was a hell of a play. But I thought that was the clincher. The Commanders didn't score in the second half. I thought that was huge. They were able to run the ball a little bit, and they were able to get some chunk plays with some screen plays they had. So they were able to move the ball a little bit in the first half. That was a little surprising, but the other guys get paid too. I thought Mitch only punted the ball twice, so I'll take that every day of the week, obviously. And the Niners took care of business. The Niners did what they had to do, and that's get a dub in DC. And we got some great help from the Arizona Cardinals, and that's my general thoughts about the game. Glad we got the win. Rest is very important. We're going to talk about that later, but I thought they did what they were supposed to do, and we got back to basics. That's what this came down to. Go back to running the ball, getting turnovers on defense, and that's what it came down to.
Real talk, real talk. Hey man, yeah, man, Elijah Mitchell, that was nice to see. It was hella it was hella cool to see him get the TD too. You know, it's like, hey, he hasn't had one all year. Just hey, like, don't forget about him, man. Like, it's easy to come to what people think are conclusions. And I like to think there's never a conclusion in sports because it's always shifting. What you might see for one game, folks might see a little bit, just a little bit of, Elijah Mitchell throughout the year, couple runs here, couple runs there. Look at the average, say 3 yards, he sucks. Like, nah, man, you gotta see a dude get a steady diet of something to really see what someone is. A lot of people like to see a quarterback for 3 years. Well, if that's the case, you really can't judge a running back 3 yards a carry if he's getting 2 carries a game or something like that. So that was cool to see the 49ers keep CMC a little more rested. He came up with the calf strain. Hopefully that's nothing too serious with the amount of punishment he's taken throughout the year. But to hop off of Mitchell, man, we got to talk about Brock Purdy, man, because regardless of how it came and how it happened and all the arguments, man, he did something that has never been done, or he is the all-time leader for yards in the season, San Francisco 49ers. And, that's nothing to sneeze at, regardless of where the NFL is today. I seen something, I can't even remember the point because it probably wasn't too important. The thing I'm going to say is that's an incredible achievement, no matter how you slice it up, no matter how you split it up. Like, congratulations to the 49ers offense. Shanahan, Purdy, going all the way back to making a hard move with Trey Lance and trusting in Purdy and really putting all your eggs in one basket and going in one direction and not, playing the fence and all that. So props to Brock for that. That's incredible. There's also another thing the 49ers did that has never been done in history, and that's to have 4 players with 1,000-yard scrimmage. But I think the difference, it's been done with the 2004 Colts, but it was different in this way where it was a tight end instead of a receiver. So that's the first time that's ever been done where, McCaffrey has 2,000 all purpose and the other 3 have at least 1,000 yards. And I don't think you can do something like that with just a guy who checks it down without, the only way you get something like that is when you have a guy who is, changing the game, who is a game changer. However,
man. Jimmy would have done it, man. Jimmy would have done it.
Hey, it's funny you say that because the stats of Jimmy in 2019 and the stats of Brock are very similar. They are really similar, but when you watch the game,
it's different.
It is different. There is certain
similar, but Brock's stats are better in like every category, marginally. But it's like all that adds up.
Yeah, it does. It's a game of inches, and anyone who truly watches the game can see that there's something special about guys like Buster Posey. Buster Posey's not going to blow you out of the water with the stats he had in his career, but he was a winner, and people threw that label to someone like Jimmy Garoppolo as being a winner when it was, I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole, but the point I'm going to stick on is there are guys like Buster Posey, and whether it's a Steph Curry or a Joe Montana or a Tom Brady, and y'all can decide for yourselves whether I'm comparing Brock to those guys or not. Because I'm just saying what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is there's a special X factor that is unseen sometimes in certain people. And, I feel like Brock is that. I don't even know how to categorize it, but that's one of the things that I like to see, man, is that we continue to push the ball down the field. We seen the dot, the 38-yarder to Brandon Ayuk. That was a beautiful
that was
pass.
A laser. That was a laser.
Someone up in his face. He stood in the pocket, stepped up, ripped it freaking to Ayuk. That connection has been money all year long. And then he does it again. We talked earlier about the pointing. You know, when Jimmy Garoppolo get the pointing, oh my lord, I buckle up and get some popcorn. You don't know what's about to happen right now. He looks to the left, he looks to the right. But there's a big that this is maybe the biggest difference in Jimmy and Garoppolo is when Purdy points, most of the time it's money. It is straight up money when Purdy points, and when Garoppolo points, only the Lord knows what the heck's about to go down. And so, I'm trying to think, the likes and dislikes, man, there wasn't too much to not like. I'll save some meat on the bone. I went on a rant that maybe wasn't even about the likes and dislikes, but what up, Amin? Happy New Year's. How you feeling, man? I'm gonna let you just give your general thoughts. And then if you want to talk about the offensive likes and dislikes, and then we'll just rotate to Baller and Jay after that.
Man, like the best thing about winning the number one seed is honestly just from the fans, like just as a fan, is that I don't gotta worry about next week. Cause I already know right now if the Eagles won and then like going into next week how stressful that would be. Obviously the Rams, they're gonna be playing their starters, I think, for the most part. I mean, it would have been a stressful week. And as a Niners fan, especially you mentioned Jimmy Garoppolo. As a Niners fan with Jimmy Garoppolo, you don't know how many games where they're like down to the wire and you're like, Jimmy in the offense, please don't mess this up. Like, please don't mess this up. And either we pull it out with the Robbie Gold field goal, or sometimes, Jimmy Garoppolo throws an interception. It's like it always comes down, to the wire sometimes with Jimmy Garoppolo. But I mean, I'm glad I don't got to worry about next week. I'm glad I don't got to worry about the wild card round. We move on to the divisional round. But, number one seed, besides that, doesn't really mean much to me. We've had the number one seed before. I want to win a Super Bowl this year. Like, this year, we have the team. And if you really think about it yesterday, and you put it into perspective, yesterday, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I think the offense played better than the defense. I think we could agree on that. The offense played better than the defense. The defense was kind of all right. Like, I didn't think the defense was all that yesterday. They got the turnovers and the interceptions late, but I didn't think the defense was really that great. What really kept them in the game yesterday was that offense and Brock Purdy. And I think the offense kind of, in a way, won them the game yesterday. But for the first time, you have a really darn good offense and you have a really darn good defense, right? So if one struggles, you have the other to, kind of balance it out. But for the most part, I'm just happy, I don't got to worry about the next couple of weeks. I get to relax. But, I mean, this is our year. Like, the Niners have a great offense, great defense. Kyle, like, please don't screw it up. Like, please just don't screw it up. You don't have Jimmy Garoppolo anymore. Like, you don't have an excuse to sit up here and be like, but we have Jimmy Garoppolo, and, I was conservative in this situation because he doesn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. We can't have that argument anymore. Like, this is your year. Unless Brock Purdy gets hurt or unless you have a catastrophic injury, like, this is your year. Get it done.
I got a perfect topic for later on called confidence in crunch time. So just hey, man, I was gonna try to cut you off, like save it for later, bro. Uh nah, but I hear you, man. Man, hey, what was the things that you like to see the most and didn't like to see the most on offense? Yeah, man.
One like was seeing Elijah Mitchell out there yesterday, and I know partially it was because of Christian McCaffrey and his calf strain. He was obviously on the sideline, and we were wondering what was up with that. But I like to see Elijah Mitchell in there, and I want to see Elijah Mitchell more in there on third down situations. I like that we also got to see Jordan Mason late in the game. Kyle Shanahan, Christian McCaffrey's a stud. I know the commentators, they all say it all the time. Christian McCaffrey wants to be in there on every snap. He wants to play all the time. I get that, but at the same time, right, playing football takes a toll on your body. And I'd rather have Christian McCaffrey, right? I'm glad we get 3 weeks break because he gets to, have 3 weeks to recover. But I'd rather have Christian McCaffrey in those playoff moments or in big moments than have him in like a meaningless fourth quarter game. And I'm glad Kyle Shanahan decided to use Elijah Mitchell because Elijah Mitchell's first touchdown. And Elijah Mitchell was great for us before Christian McCaffrey got here. Elijah Mitchell I think he broke the record for the Niners rushing rookie record. So, like, Elijah Mitchell was really good for us before Christian McCaffrey got here, and it kind of felt like he has been dealing with injuries, but it was nice to see him out there yesterday. I feel like we should get him more involved instead of just solely focusing on Christian McCaffrey and utilizing him and giving him 20 carries a game. I think you could split it out a little bit more, but just to keep Christian McCaffrey a little bit healthy, just to keep him healthy. But I like to see the addition of Christian McCaffrey and then Brock Purdy, man. Like you mentioned the point, and like that's just like I haven't seen that from a Niners quarterback. And some of y'all got to see Joe Montana and the Steve Youngs and the Garcias. When I started watching Niner football, it was like at the end of Colin Kaepernick, Blaine Gabbert. That was like the first couple of seasons. And I got Jimmy Garoppolo, and I was really hyped at the Jimmy Garoppolo era because 2017, Jimmy Garoppolo was throwing sidearm passes to Trent Taylor for touchdowns, and we were leading, game-winning drives. And then it's kind of been whatever since that. And now we have Brock Purdy, and man, Brock Purdy, he's just special. Not because he could throw the ball 80 yards, not because he's the strongest, not because he's the fastest, but he just does the right thing on most situations. In most situations, he just does the right thing, right? And he kind of has a sneaky athleticism where he obviously isn't the fastest. He's not like a Lamar Jackson, but he has a little bit of that sneaky athleticism when he has to make a play. When he has to, it was like a third down in the first quarter, and he like stepped up in the pocket and he ran off and got the first down. Like that sneaky athleticism, like he just does the right thing. He gives you an opportunity to win. Anybody that's calling Brock Purdy a game manager after yesterday or after this entire season, like it just like it baffles me. Like that throw to Ayuk, like like it's so beautiful to see. Like it's so beautiful to see. Like Jimmy Garoppolo throwing, like I said it. I think I said a couple of streams ago, man. Kyle Juszczyk wide open down the sideline. Jimmy sails it over his head, and like I forgot who said it, but like the guy on Fox said it like yesterday. Like the commentator said it yesterday really well. Like Brock Purdy couldn't have handed that ball better to Brandon Ayuk on that throw. Like that was just a freaking dime.
Mark Schlereth, or is this Schlereth? Yeah, Mark Schlereth or whatever. Yeah, Mark Schlereth.
Yeah. Like I don't know those guys' names, but I mean, it's just fun to watch this offense with Brock Purdy. It's just really fun when you have a good offense that throws the ball deep at times, and that's can put up 30 on any team. It's just really nice to see. But yeah, it was fun watching that yesterday. And like I'm still gonna say it one last time, but Kyle, please don't mess this up. Please, like just don't do it, Kyle. Don't do it. Not this year. Like don't do it.
How you feeling? Likes and dislikes, my man, on the O.
I liked how Shanahan got back to running the ball. Like that was the main foundation. Against the Ravens, we talked about. I felt a little too pass heavy. So yeah, we love Brock. He's a playmaker. But the identity of this team is to run the rock. So I want that to be the mentality in the playoffs, like just like the Niners did in their previous Super Bowl run. Like if you can run it down a team's throat, that's what you do. So I kind of felt like that we got back to that game plan. So I liked that. And I want to shout out like Chris Forrester because I love how our team blocks, especially like in the run game and in the screen game. Like they block with such unison. And Jake Brendel, while he's probably not the best pass blocking center in the NFL, I see him making blocks like 10, 15 yards downfield routinely. So Brendel, he's a weapon out there in the run game and in the screen game, sealing off edges. So shout out to Brendel. Some more good on offense. I mean, Brandon Ayuk, man, bro, what does he have? 1,300 yards on the season? Like, come on, man. BA, this dude's awesome. And what also kind of adds to how special he is, or what kind of allows him to really show off his talents, is how it is a run-based offense. And with all these weapons everywhere, BA gets a lot of one-on-one coverage. And he's able to win these one-on-one matchups consistently, and we've seen it all year. So, I mean, BA, he was awesome again yesterday. And then, the Brock Purdy love fest continues. Amin actually highlighted a couple plays that I absolutely loved. I jotted down just like as the wow plays he makes, like that improvisational play to Brandon Ayuk where he's running around, evades a sack, he's on the run. Like this kid's special. He plays so good within structure, but then he gives you 2 or 3 plays every game that just adds to this offense's ability. The throw to Brandon Ayuk on the seam route, or it was a slot fade that Kelt's already talked about earlier. That was a laser. It was perfectly thrown. Like if you see that throw, you would never question if Brock Purdy has enough arm strength. Like just that throw right there shows you, yes, he does. And like Amin said, there was a nice scramble on a 3rd and 3 to convert it. One of his best throws, fellas, I thought ended up being incomplete on the first drive. It was Juszczyk on a wheel route, right? I mean,
Hey,
Purdy put it right in the
perfect.
breadbasket.
Yeah.
Juice usually has some reliable hands. That one slipped through and hit the ground. But, man, Brock Purdy, it feels good, man. This is going to be our guy. But, hey, we can't be content. There's more work to do. We're in a good spot, but you got to take advantage of this situation. The Super Bowl window is right now, and I'm excited about it.
Can I
Hey,
ask into that baller real quick? Can I ask into that? Because you touched on it a little bit, right? Like the run game. Like Kyle Shanahan reestablished the run game. But like watching that game yesterday, Kyle took his shots when he needed to. But it kind of reminded me a little bit of a Jimmy offense, where it was like more conservative. It was more running the ball, even like in the end zone, that little pitch to Debo for a quick touchdown, right? It wasn't so much of relying on Brock or relying on Christian McCaffrey. It was kind of balanced where I feel like if the Niners do that in the playoffs, that sets them up for the best chance that they have of winning a Super Bowl, because you have a competent quarterback. It's not Jimmy Garoppolo at QB. So when you need to make those throws, I think personally Kyle Shanahan has a guy that he trusts, and as like a fan, I trust in order to make the throws. But then you also have a bunch of weapons that you could utilize, so you don't always have to put it in Brock Purdy's hands, especially in the playoffs. What they did yesterday with like the balance of not like the Ravens game where it kind of felt like Brock Purdy's trying to win the MVP, and this is Kyle Shanahan's showcase to have Brock Purdy win the MVP. So they're just passing the football and not utilizing the run game. I liked where they had that balance because I trust Brock Purdy to make the throws when he needs to. I trust him to take the shots when they need to. But then you also have Christian McCaffrey's and Debo Samuel that can run the ball, and you could pound the ball down team's throat. And then when you need to pass the ball, you have a quarterback that's capable, more than capable, and that I trust, that Kyle Shanahan trusts to make the throws and make the plays that he needs to. So I love the game plan yesterday. If you go out and do that in the playoffs where you're not fully heavily relying on Brock Purdy, and you balance it out, I mean, I think the Niners will be pretty successful.
hey, well said, Amin and Bay Area baller. I think yesterday's game plan was the blueprint. This is how every game should be going forward. I don't think we need a pass heavy offense up, at least on the first few drives. CMC is an MVP consideration for a reason. Use him. He's going to have 3 weeks off. It's going to be balls to the wall once we play our first playoff game. But run the ball. Don't make it more complicated than it has to be. That's the strength of the team. Work off play action, run the ball. I like that we got Juice involved. I mean, when was the last time he had 3 catches in a game? Because teams aren't really expecting it. You got to guard Kittle, you got to guard Ayuk, Debo, sometimes Jawan Jennings, especially on 3rd down. But now you have to guard Juszczyk. I like it. I think we should do it more often. Get him involved in the game. Of course, Brock Purdy, he's going to make those plays that you guys illustrated already. And those are always fun to watch, fun to see for sure. And of course, it was good to see Elijah Mitchell out there. He had been battling injuries pretty much all year. And for him to get 17 carries, I think that definitely will help his confidence going forward. And I don't think he'll get 17 carries again in the future in a playoff game, but unless it's a blowout. But at least he's getting warmed up, right? He's not coming off not playing in 2 months. At least he was able to get some game action. So I think that'll benefit him and the team going forward. Dislikes. There weren't that many. Honestly, I thought we went in and we did what we had to do. We put up 27. You could say the game plan was conservative, but I didn't think we need to. I mean, we're playing the Commanders. Their coach is about to get fired. They have nothing to play for. The game plan is simple. So I didn't see too many dislikes. I feel like once a game, Brock Purdy has a throw where I think it was a Debo. He ran like a in pattern, and Brock has to throw it past the defender that's guarding Brock or guarding Debo, but then he also has to fit it in to a safety coming over, and it looked like he kind of threw it behind Debo. I think that was on the first drive, I believe.
It was wasn't in third quarter, like I think it was third, right? Like
maybe he had more than one of those throws because I remember. I think I know for sure that he usually has one of those throws where he tries to fit it in, and you love it when it works, you hate it when it doesn't. But I think he's always going to, make those difficult throws. But other than that, you put up 27 points on the road. I think everything was pretty much good from my standpoint.
All right, so I got a little conspiracy on the Debo thing. Just little stuff that I noticed, and I also wanted to touch on what Baller was talking about. I don't know how long ago, but I remembered how you were talking about. Did we notice with Kyle Shanahan and the game plan? And I absolutely noticed it because when I was watching versus the Commanders, I was like, I feel like we're practicing for the playoffs right now. Like I feel like they're purposely running some of these things we haven't all year because the bread and butter's been the mid game and through the middle of the regular season, teams probably ain't gonna play you as tight, So now I think Kyle's anticipating things to tighten up. So hey, let's make sure we got these because I was complaining last week versus the Ravens. How come we're going so quick on some of these screens and throwing some of these way quicker? Like, hey, let's stick to our bread and butter in the middle. And I know that's where the interceptions came because they were kind of anticipating it, but I think Kyle kind of learned right there in that atmosphere. Hey, man, we got to get the quick game locked in, to hopefully open up the bigger passes and stuff. So I did notice that, Baller, because that's the first thought I had was, man, we're practicing for the okay. I see what's
I
going
like
on
that.
here.
Yeah.
When you look past, it's easy to see the surface and use logic, but sometimes it's more than logic. Sometimes it's more than the surface. And there's games being played inside of games, especially a team like the Niners who have been there for what it feels like 4 consecutive years. Please, for the love of God, Kyle, just do what Amin said. And yeah, but so yeah, man. And the conspiracy I had with Debo, it feels like Debo is one of the main guys that Brock Purdy throws it a little bit behind. I don't know if y'all noticed that or not, but to me, it feels like Debo's the main guy that Brock throws behind to. I've seen it more. I've seen it the most. That's just my eyes. Maybe I'm wrong. But so I got to thinking, I think Brock, he um is on detail so much. Working in off season with each receiver, I think he's a little scared because of Debo's stature or maybe Debo's hands to lead him a little too much. That's just my own conspiracy that I think he specifically tries to put it directly on Debo. And because of that, sometimes it's a little behind. I think with someone like Ayuk, he's going to kind of float it out there a little bit more with the longer arms. And that's just my thing. It doesn't matter. I mean, the one takeaway I would take away from my own, hypothesis or conspiracy is that, hey, I like the fact that Brock is looking at things, looking at things in that much detail. Like, hey, how am I going to throw it to Kittle? Okay, I know Kittle kind of likes it a little more like this. I might, switch it up to each person. I think that's just what I think. But
I think my
anyways,
theory on that, why
go ahead.
we kind of see some more of those passes that tend to be behind on Debo's running more routes over the middle of the field where
Yeah,
it's like you can't lead him so much because there's like another zone defender
yeah,
there, as opposed to like a guy like Ayuk who can win deep and win on more over routes or to the sideline, so he's not Purdy doesn't have to fit it in between defenders and kind of throw it away from guys. That's just my theory, but you're
no,
right. It does feel like, and Debo, well, we love Debo, but we don't talk about like how great his hands are typically, so
yeah,
that, I definitely see where you're coming from. It does seem like Debo's kind of reaching behind for some balls, but I think it has to do with where he typically runs a lot of
schematically,
his
yeah,
routes.
yeah. No, yeah, that makes way more sense to be honest. But yeah, man, it's something I thought of just watching the game. There's a lot of little
Yeah.
things like that. I might not even speak on it. I was like, hey, why not? Hey, we're gonna hop to the defense, the defensive side of the ball, the likes, the dislikes. We'll start it off with Jay this time. And for me personally, I was frustrated on like, man, this is like kind of back to back games. Where's the fire from the D? The turnovers is the fire that I'm talking about. I need to see that we can still take the ball away, man. And, I wasn't even really worried about the score or situational. I just want to see the momentum. I want to see that fire. I want to see, and sure enough, a good 5 minutes later, Mooney gets a pick. Lenore could have had about three. Lenore winds up getting a pick. So I love to see that. You guys were talking a little bit earlier about the run game. They were gashing us just a little bit, but at the same time, I think that goes back to Eric Armstead. Hopefully, he's going to be primed and ready for the playoffs. Hopefully, he's got 3 good ones in him because we're going to need it come playoff time. Maybe we'll see Joseph Day. We'll see what happens with that. Yeah, heck of a game by Lenore, man. Mooney Ward at the same time, he's having an all-pro type year. And man, I gotta slip this in real quick. I put a tweet out, and my apologies, fellas, but Ayuk. I gotta just say something about Ayuk real quick because thinking about Mooney makes me think about Ayuk. Just it feels like they're having all pro seasons, but because he doesn't have 8 interceptions or because Ayuk doesn't have 12 touchdowns, feels like they might get minimized lightweight. But I think with wide receivers, they got to account a little bit for the blocking, or they got to account, just as a total wide receiver. I don't think anybody's having a better season than Brandon Ayuk running 70 yards downfield to block for his teammates, to the route running, the just continuing to improve, the just everything that Ayuk brings, regardless of the other guys, because he can only control what's coming his way. But I want to put them in the same basket, Mooney Ward and Brandon Ayuk. They better at least get Pro Bowls. Maybe they're not going to get the all pro, but they, especially Ayuk, man, definitely he deserves to be a Pro Bowler. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be, regardless of the yards, but he's right up there. The dislikes on defense, it's kind of tough, man. I just feel like it was a solid game all the way around, offense and defense. There wasn't one glaring thing that pops out to me, but I'm gonna let you take it from here, Jay, in the Bay on the defensive side.
Hey, appreciate that. Hey, I just want to say what's good to everyone that's in the chat right now. Libby's World, NYC, Lowe's D, Rick Diaz. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Tile, Rob, Don. Appreciate everyone leaving comments as well. Going into this game, Sam Howell, he's been sacked 61 times. That's a lot. That's on average of what? At least 4 games, 3 to 4 times he's been sacked a game. So to end up only getting 1 sack, that's a little disappointing. And they did gash us from time to time with screen passes. Brian Robinson, that's a tough guy to bring down. He gashed us for a few runs. I think that's really the only thing that consistently hurt us, where a few runs, a few screen passes. Scary Terry, he's always going to make some plays out there. He's a hell of a receiver. He got one over Demo Lenore, I believe. And he also had a touchdown catch. But when you only allow 10 points, it's like, what can you really be that mad at? The Commanders were able to move the ball, but the Niners D came up with those turnovers in the second half that really flipped the game. So my likes were the turnovers, only allowing 10 points. Dislikes, only had 1 sack. We did get a few pressures. Bosa was in there. I was expecting a bigger game from Chase Young. You're going back to DC. I talked about it last week. I thought he would have, a look at me now game. At least statistically, it didn't show up like that. Was he around the quarterback? Sure. But statistically, it didn't really show up that way. But overall, only allowing 10 points, you took care of business. It's overall, I would give it like a B- performance for the defense. I think you on mute, Kelts. You on mute.
How you feeling about the DE?
I got some names jotted down, on guys I thought had a strong performance. I got to touch on a couple guys who have already been spoken on. Demo, thought Demo had a really good game, had the interception, almost had a couple more. And he did give up the one catch, like Jay said, on the seam route to Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin's a good player. That being said, with Demo, I think we got like our nickel corner for the next 3 or 4 years. I'm pretty content with what Demo's been giving us. He's always willing to stick his nose in there in the run game. Good performance yesterday. And then, Charvarius Ward, I got to say it again. He was awesome. That interception he had with the score 2010 and the Commanders driving, it was just a game-changing, kind of game-clinching interception. And guys, on that route, like on that interception, the ball was intended for Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin, I just said, he's a good football player. Charvarius Ward, his coverage on it was awesome. McLaurin tried to go outside, tried to get Ward to bite outside and then come back in. Ward didn't fall for it, not a second. And he was just all over it, smothered it, got the pick. It's his 5th on the year. Charvarius Ward's been freaking awesome. Next guy I wanted to touch on, Clelin Ferrell. I mean, guys, the dude's just a really freaking solid football player. Hell of a signing by John Lynch this offseason to come in. This guy's he's really good on base downs. He's good against the run. Yesterday, he had 3 QB hits leading the team. He had a sack. He had a tackle for loss. Like, Clelin Ferrell has been just really freaking solid this year. Shout out Clelin Ferrell. And then Dre Greenlaw, guys. If you were to ask me, like, who needs these couple weeks off the most out of anyone on the Niners, I mean, McCaffrey's nicked, so he needs some time off. But Dre Greenlaw, man, he's been battling through all sorts of stuff all year, right, with the hamstring and the ankle, and just he continues to play through it. But I'm happy I think maybe they're going to rest him. Who knows? Maybe they're going to play him. But I would probably rest this guy because he flies all over the field. He's physical as hell. He led the Niners in tackles yesterday with 10. Greenlaw, he's having an awesome season. He was awesome again yesterday. And then Javon Hargrave. I was a little nervous with him coming back from the hammy. I thought maybe, let's rest him another week. But no, he was out there. I saw him kind of pushing the pocket. His numbers didn't pop off on the stat sheet, but I saw his impact out there. And similar along those lines, Nick Bosa. I thought Nick Bosa, was commanding double teams, still kind of pushing the pocket, making Sam Howell uncomfortable. So those were my strengths. The one guy I'm nervous about, you were to ask me, like, who on defense still kind of makes you nervous, and maybe one of you guys can kind of ease my nerves, but it's still Ambry. I don't know, something about it. I know he gave up the touchdown to Terry McLaurin on the little slot fade, but I want to say there was another play or two yesterday that was just like, come on, Ambry, like, just kind of loosen his coverage. So that's probably my only dislike. And at this point, it is what it is, right? But that being said, this game coming up, one of these young guys, if they show out, is it a Womack or a Daryl Luter, or, if someone plays, it's Ambry's spot. But if things get hairy and, he's giving up some yards, somebody who steps up and plays this week coming up against the Rams and shows out might enter, Wilkes' mind, say, hey, let's make a switch, depending on how things go. But there was a lot of good that we had from yesterday, and those were the guys I touched on.
Absolutely. What's up, Amin? How you feeling about the D?
I mean, obviously there was a lot of positives, right? Obviously limiting the Commanders to 10 points. Obviously the takeaways with Demo, and like Demo could have had a couple of them, man. Some of them I'm just like, Demo, like, you gotta hold on to that. But then but he obviously got the one at the end, and then Charvarius Ward. You said something about Brandon Ayuk and Charvarius Ward. I think they should be, definitely get into the Pro Bowl, and they're having all pro type seasons. But that's just the thing, man. Like, when we look at it, we look at, like, for example, like a guy with the Cowboys, like Deron Bland, right? Like, when Deron Bland is like, oh, he's okay in coverage at times, but like everybody's talking about Deron Bland because he has the interceptions, right? 8 interceptions, leading the league, or like even when guys like have good receiving like seasons, right? Like for example, like a Mike Evans. Mike Evans has put up like 1,000 yards for like the last 10 seasons, but because he doesn't have the touchdowns and he plays for the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers are kind of irrelevant for the last couple of years, except they're doing good this year. But I'm talking about like in terms of like guys like Ayuk, they don't get the recognition that they deserve. Number one, because when you play on a team like the Niners with how much talent we have, like when you see Debo's highlights, you see Kittle doing what he's doing, you see Christian McCaffrey, he kind of gets overshadowed, right? But at the same time, is it fair to him? No, but people like to look at numbers like touchdowns or sacks or interceptions. Those are just fancy stats that people look at. And obviously we know that even regardless of them not leading the league in interceptions or leading the league in touchdowns, they're still having really damn good seasons. And it actually makes it more impressive when you think about it, because when you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, George Kittle, and then you also have Ayuk, and Ayuk is still freaking dominating, right? And with a team that isn't necessarily the most pass heavy, right? Like Brock Purdy isn't throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game. And when you think about that, you're like, damn, Brandon Ayuk is having a freaking phenomenal season. He isn't like I feel like he's the wide receiver one, right? I think he's the best receiver on the team. But when you think about it with Debo, Christian McCaffrey, all these guys, yet he's still producing at such a high level. And the offense, you could say, isn't necessarily a pass first or a pass heavy offense. And he's still dominating the way that he's doing. I think that makes it even more impressive, even if he doesn't have the touchdown, he doesn't have 10 plus touchdowns in the season. And even Charvarius Ward, he leads the league in pass breakups. He leads the league in pass breakups. And like he said, I think on Eric Armstead, he was with Eric Armstead on like a podcast, and he was like, if I start catching those and turning them into interceptions, right, which he has done the last couple of weeks, but he's having an all-pro season, right? But those two guys, like you mentioned it, Kels, like those two guys are balling out, but they don't get the recognition that they deserve. In terms of the defense, obviously, right, like Tarvarius Ward, De'Armond Leonard, they played well. But Jay, you mentioned it, right? Jay, is that, I mean, Sam Howell's been sacked 60 plus times this year. And obviously, the defense definitely didn't make Sam Howell's job easy, but I feel like they could have gotten a couple of more sacks yesterday, especially against this. Like they said in the beginning of the game, like the Commanders were playing like 3 backup offensive linemen. Like they didn't have their starters in. And I expect, like, even though it wasn't a bad performance, I just feel like when you look at the circumstance of the Commanders not having their starters, when Sam Howell's been one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league this year, I felt like the defensive line could have had a better game. It's hard to do it against Lamar Jackson. I understand that, right? Like last week, I understand. It's hard to do it against Lamar or a Kyler Murray. But when there's backup on the offensive line, when Sam Howell's the most sacked quarterback this year, I felt like the defensive line could have done just a little bit more, right? I expected more. Chase Young, he had a couple of good run plays where he stopped the run, where he got after that. But I feel like I wish we would have seen more from him, because I thought, like Jay said, like I felt like coming back to Washington, he would have had at least one sack in the game, if not a multiple sack performance. But he had some nice plays here and there, but it was whatever. But yeah, defensive line, felt like they could have done a little bit more. But it was one of Nick Bosa's better games in the season. If you look at least throughout this year, it was one of Nick Bosa's better games. You saw him a little bit more. I think he got the sack, unless they gave it to Clean and Farrell. I don't know if they gave it to Clean and Farrell, or someone else on that play. But I think he got that sack. But one of Nick Bosa's better games in the season. Not really worried about the defense, but yeah. Besides the fact with the 10 points, I felt like the defensive line could have done a little bit more.
Hey, just real quick about Ambry Thomas. Like, I think he's played pretty well for a majority of the season. Now, if he struggles in the playoffs, with Wilkes, sideline Wilkes, would he opt to put Jason Verrett in, or maybe Sammy Womack? I mean, maybe in a pinch, but I don't know if that would necessarily mean Ambry will be benched the rest of the playoffs games. But I think he's built up enough goodwill. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm also thinking about the options behind him. I mean, Jason Verrett, he's been, in and out practice squad. He did get some run in the last
someone
game.
who stepped up this week, someone who gets the opportunity. Someone will have to step up this week to kind of gain some, earn some
Because
stripes.
Ambry probably won't play. He's got the broken hand. He's going to have surgery, but he probably won't play. So yeah, someone else, and they're going to have a good test going up against Cooper Kupp, Puka Nakua. Like it's going to be a good test for whoever fills in for Ambry. That's for sure.
But I understand Baller's concern though, because I feel like on that defense, Ambry's the one guy that does worry me a
Weak
little.
link.
Because I feel he is the weak link of that defense, and it's not like it is the nicest thing to say, but he's that one guy that does worry me because we've seen when teams do target Ambry Thomas, a lot of the time the offense is successful. He has been better this year, but when you're playing playoff teams, right? Like if you meet the Rams in the first round and Ambry Thomas is out there, I mean, against a guy like Puka or Cooper Kupp, I would say the Rams have a favorable matchup in those instances, especially if Ambry's guarding one of those guys. So I am worried about Ambry Thomas. If the offensive, if the opposing team does target Ambry, I would say out of 10, I would say 6 or 7 times, if not more, I would say the offensive guy has a pretty good shot at coming down with the ball. That just at least in my opinion.
And I'm not trying to beat up on Ambry too much. Like he is the guy. Like he's the guy that's going to be, aiming to start opposite Charvarius Ward. I'm always looking for potential ways to get better. And I know this team really likes Darrell Luter, who we haven't seen, right? He had that bone bruise that kind of lingered for the majority of this year, but he's back now. Sam Womack, like we haven't seen these guys. So I want to see him out there. If somebody performs well, then it's going to be in the back of my mind. Like, hey, we got a Luter, we got a Womack who did play well, in an NFL game this year to kind of fall back on.
All right, so here's my thing with all of it, and I'm gonna this is transition straight up into step your game up, and hey, let's just say that's Ambry Thomas, just for the sake of the discussion. Excuse me. So there's a couple of things: smaller picture, big picture. The way I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, he's done. I'm looking all the way back to Isaiah Oliver, and I'm thinking about what Ambry has done since that time, and I'm like, freaking money in the bank. If that's our weakest link,
right.
Super Bowl, here we come, right? And then another thing, even bigger picture, I'm looking at it like this, like there hasn't been too many years where we can look back and say, hey, we got Ambry, we got Verrett just sitting there, we got Womack sitting there, we got Luter sitting there. A lot of the times in the past few years, our secondary truly was a weak link, even, and it's like, oh my God, are we going to have to hit up Dante Johnson again? Are we going to have to go get dude off the street? Are we going to,
At
whoever
this point,
it
he should
is?
be a Niners legend, Kel. It's like at this point, I
Yeah,
feel like I've seen him at least every couple of years. He's back on the Niners. He should be a Niner legend. Like they should retire his number. Like
absolutely. I feel it. But, and then to flip the script back, to Baller's point, hey, I want to see this team. I don't want to just come up this short again, man. It's like we need that extra inch, whatever that is. Whatever you got to do, sideline Steve and freaking Kyle Shanahan to just not crumble in those moments, whether it's schematically, whether it's with whatever player needs to play, whether it's whatever it is. Hopefully, I trust that they got it figured out this year so far. Hopefully, whoever it is, hopefully we're just not getting burnt. Hopefully that's not the reason, whether it's a tart drop or a fumble or whatever, but I do like the position that we are with it with our team right now. I love the fact that we can lean back on a Verrett or a Womack or a Luter, even though we haven't seen Luter. I've heard nothing but good stuff from him. I know you got to get on the field and do it. Hopefully it's Ambry. Hopefully Ambry rises to the occasion, gets healthy quick, and he has another some more moments, kind of like what he did versus the Rams. We seen Payo Time up in the chat. What up, my man? Happy New Year's. So yeah, it's the way I feel about it. And we still got a few other topics. I'm gonna just hop, unless y'all want to touch on step your game up. I'm gonna just hop to 49ers versus Rams and who you are looking forward to seeing. Bay Area. Eric, he reminded me earlier that this was a good topic to bring up. Who are you excited to see? That we typically don't see. The guy I mentioned was Womack without hesitation, and then it was Danny Gray. It's like we've seen the 49ers without Jawan Jennings. and it's obviously made an impact. I know he's more of a dog. He's going to make those blocks. He's going to get under linebacker skins and edge guys. And, Jawan is a dog. He brings a certain spirit about him, that from hearing the players talk, he's just one of those guys. I think I mentioned it last week or the week before when you go to work and there's that one guy there that keeps the spirits light or that makes you want to, be more on top of your game. It feels like the Niners talk about JJ, Third and Jawan like that. So, I think Danny Gray gets looked at like he's a young guy and he's nothing but speed and he can't block and he jumps off sides or false starts or whatever. But I want to see a good dose, just like I was talking about Elijah Mitchell. It's hard to really point your finger at someone when you barely see him. So I would love to see Danny get the whole route tree, bust it all out, bust the slants, the whips, the digs, whatever it is, bust it all out for Danny Gray. Maybe it's too late in the season, but he has been back at practice. Ray McLeod, that's some more injury news that I guess he is off of IR and he's going to be able to come back. So, that would be cool to see him get some reps in versus the Rams. And just to go around the table, we'll start with Jay. Who are you most looking forward to seeing? And just anything else you want to touch on when it comes to playing the Rams?
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick on just step your game up. Not a specific player, but just how we defend like the screen passes. I know the front four wants to get to the quarterback, but if a lineman is blocking you for a half a second and they let you go by, typically that means something's going on behind you, and you just have to have like that sixth sense, like, okay, they're letting me go. And I see the lineman going in a certain direction, like I need to go get the ball, go get the running back, because most likely he's going to be getting the ball or the tight end or whatever. So I just think we just have to be more prepared for that. So maybe that's a sideline Steve thing, bringing it up in meetings. Maybe that's practicing it on the practice field. Somebody yelling out screen, like whatever. But I think that's something that we've continually seen this season where we get beat. Like they're gashing us. It's like 15, 20-yard screen passes.
It's every game feels like they give up at least one.
Yeah. So not necessarily a specific player. I guess you could say the D line because they're on the line of scrimmage and they're the first you could argue to recognize it, or they should be. But that's what I would say for step your game up. But as far as a player that I'm excited to see who should get some burn in this game because we've already got it wrapped up. I mean, Ronnie Bell, he showed up and showed out in the preseason. I mean, he made the freaking roster as a 7th round pick. Like that's pretty much unheard of. Most of the time that doesn't happen. So it'll be good to see him out there. I'm sure Debo most likely probably won't play. Well, Shanahan hasn't really said, like, the guys, they could play the first quarter or play 2 series or whatever and then take them out. We really don't know. But yeah, seeing Ronnie Bell in there, I know Chris Conley was in there. We didn't really get any targets his way. Hey, maybe we'll see, Bay Area Baller's favorite guy, Braden Willis. I know E was very high on him coming into the draft. And Kittle, there's no reason why he should play. I mean, Kittle, I'm surprised he even stayed in the game. That vicious hit he took coming across the middle. Yeah, that looked like he's going to be sore today. But yeah, Braden Willis, let's see we know he's a hell of a blocker. Let's see what he can do in the passing game. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Let me on defense, if there's one guy, I think Robert Bill Jr. was out there, I think yesterday. So let's see more of him. He was a day 2 draft pick for us, or no, I think it was day 3, 5th round pick. So let's see what he can do going after the quarterback. But yeah, those are my 3 guys: Braden Willis, Robert Bill, and let's see what Ronnie Bell can do because I'm a little now. Okay, real quick. E says he's nervous about Ambry. I'm nervous about Ronnie Bell in punt returns. Honestly, I'm glad Ray is coming back. Or at least his 21-day practice window is open. Ray McLeod, he's recovering from that the rib injury. So, yeah, that's what I would say. I guess
Yeah,
we'll.
I got some guys. I got some guys I'm looking forward to seeing. I think are going to get some run here coming up. And Jay, my number one guy I want to see is Braden Willis. I think I really want to see him show off his tenacity. Like that's what made me fall in love with him at Oklahoma. It's like this guy gives everything he's got on every play, in blocking, on pass routes, after the catch. Like he's just a tough son of a gun. So I'm really hoping we get to see him in action and he catches a couple balls and you guys get to see how he moves people in the run block game. The second name I'm looking at is Darrell Luter. I want to see this kid Luter. Man, he's got the prototypical size. He had a year, at small school. He's a small school guy, but great year in terms of turnovers, ball production, picking balls off. Like I want to see what this kid Luter's got because I know they were high on him in training camp before he dinged up the knee. So I want to see Luter out there. And then how about Sebastian Joseph Day, right? The newest addition. Let's hey, maybe give Hargrave. Well, I know he came back from the hammy. Give him, the game off, and let's see some of these other guys. Like we've seen a lot of Kevin Givens, we've seen a lot of Kinlaw, who, has had a pretty good year. For my expectations in Kinlaw, but I want to see Sebastian Joseph Day because I think he's a pretty darn good player, and to get him kind of this late in the year was a pleasant surprise. So let's see what he's got. Get him some game reps in this system. Then, like Kelt said, man, I want to see some Danny Gray. I want to see what this kid's got. Darnold does have a big arm. Let's tell him, hey, cut a couple balls loose to Danny down the field because he can do that. He can win downfield. He's got the speed. I loved him coming out of SMU. And I like how Kelt said, like, get him the ball in some other areas too. Get him some jet sweeps because I think he's good with the ball in his hand, right? But is he going to line up correctly? Because that's been a problem for him, not lining up correctly or maybe not knowing what route to run. So let's see if Danny's kind of improved in that department because from a physical a talent perspective, I really like Danny Gray. And then the last name I got, I want to see get some burn is JP Mason. Like I want to see what 15, 18 touches of JP Mason looks like because I think it will look pretty darn good with how decisive and physical he runs. So those are the guys I'm hoping get some run and we get to take a look at.
Baller, you took my guy, Baller. Like I was
My
gonna
bad.
say Jordan Mason, and then
My
like
bad.
you just put that out there. I mean,
My
like
bad.
it's okay, it's okay. Yeah, but like Jordan Mason, man, like we saw Elijah Mitchell with the 17 touches last week, and we've seen flashes of Jordan Mason when he does get touches. I want to see Jordan Mason in the game. I want to see him get double-digit carries. I don't think there's an excuse for it, Kyle. Let him get double-digit carries this game. It's a meaningless game. Let him get his carries. I want to see D. Winters out there. Obviously, Oren Burks. I'm excited to see who we got behind Fred and Greenlaw. Obviously, Luter, Womack. I want to see them in the game. But am I the only one that's excited to see a full game of Sam Darnold? Like, didn't the Niners trade Trey Lance because they thought Sam Darnold was better? Clearly better, even though when you're looking at the stats in training camp, you're like, it's not really that big of like a difference. But I want to see Sam Darnold. I want to see a full game of Sam Darnold. He had some nice throws. He had some nice throws in that Ravens game, but I want to see me some Sam Darnold. Even though it doesn't matter, he's not going to be a starting quarterback. But listen, like I wasn't too happy when they traded Trey Lance, especially when it was to the Cowboys. But I understood the decision. But I mean, you pick Sam Darnold, who's had multiple starts, who we kind of know who he is, over Trey Lance, who was that young kid that you drafted. I want to see some Sam Darnold. I want to see what he has. But yeah,
Is it the system? Right? We should find out. Is it the system?
yeah.
I mean, Sam might be down a couple weapons. So, and anyway.
I mean, I don't expect him to win us this game, right? Like, I don't expect us to win this game, but I just want to see a little bit of Sam, right? I want to see what he got. You obviously, like, I was a huge Trey Lance guy. I have his jersey, and, like, I realized I'm not going to buy a 49ers jersey. I'm not even going to buy a Brock Purdy jersey unless he signs that contract, because who knows what can happen. Like, who knows what can happen from now until like a couple of years. So like, I'm chilling out on the jerseys for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Trey Lance, that one shocked me. Like, I remember that vividly. Like, I was coming back home from school, and I knew the Trey Lance rumors were surfacing. And then I got the tweet, and it was like Trey Lance traded to the Cowboys, and I was like, no, like this is my worst nightmare. And like surprisingly, Dak has been playing well this year, but like I was already picturing it before the season. Dak Prescott's gonna like suck, and then Trey Lance is gonna get his opportunity, and he's gonna do his thing with the Cowboys. And then NFC Championship game, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, like some like Star Wars type stuff, like Anakin versus Luke Skywalker. Like this is gonna go down in the championship game. But yeah,
I made that mistake too. I mean, I caught me a James Wiseman jersey. I thought he was going to be the next man up, and it was. So I've made that mistake too. But you know what? I mean, hey, you can cop a Brock Purdy jersey. Like this kid's for real, and he's here to stay.
At least one thing about Brock, what he has already done is like worthy enough, in my opinion, to get a jersey. What he's already done in what?
I'm trying. I want the red. I want the red throwbacks, with that outline. But they didn't have my size, so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be patient because that's the one I want. But it's like, hey, you can feel good. Get yourself a Purdy jersey. I mean,
yeah, he's
one of the man. What if it's like a Jimmy scenario where like
he hasn't won the big one yet?
I need the hell nah, and Baller. I need to cop that hell nah to the nah. What if he does not? We got to rebuke it. I got to rebuke it for you, Amin. He will not.
Say that you never know with these Niners quarterbacks. Man, he's here to stay if he doesn't get hurt.
I will slap myself live on YouTube if he pulls stuff that if all right here. I'll say this: if he ever points and it's like if he does the point and it's an interception and it's just a horrible interception. Man, I don't want to promote violence, so I might not slap but I might shave an eyebrow off or something. I don't know because, yeah, man, I couldn't see Brock. Of course, every quarterback's going to have mistakes, but yeah, I couldn't never see him pulling like a pick 8. You know what I'm saying? Like one of those kind of Jimmy moments or a Hail Mary from 5 yards out, a hell interception. But I wanted to ask you guys, could the Rams possibly not make the playoffs? I'm trying to look at the standings, trying to find out.
No, they clinched. They clinched the playoffs.
Okay. So there's no way that even if the 49ers did want to win the game with their backups.
It doesn't really make sense. The only thing, like I was thinking about it, the only reason I would play the starters even think about it is because you have that streak against the Rams, right? That's the only reason I would be like, maybe, to keep that streak alive. But like, I don't really care about the streak. We know when the two starters play each other, when our starters go up against their starters, who comes out on top 100% of the time. But that's the only reason I would even think about playing the starters. But if they already clinched the playoffs with the Seattle loss, I really don't think there's a point. Like, don't even risk it. Like, I don't really think it's worth it.
Hey, we're gonna
jump in.
Go ahead, bro.
Can I jump in because we got his comment up here? Beto, aka Niners Sickness Podcast. Oh, there it is right here. He is the champ of the Straight Out of the Bay Fantasy Football League. Beto,
congrats, Beto. Congrats.
I thought I had a chance at it, but my team let me down last round. So, I had to battle it out with Kelts for third place, and he took me down. So, Kelts, congrats on third place. It was a great season. Thank you to all those who participated. This chain right behind me, Beto, I'm going to get that to you. I'll reach out to you how I can send it your way. So congratulations, Beto. Great season. Thank you all who participated.
Man, I absolutely enjoyed it to the fullest. Well said, Baller. It was my first time ever doing fantasy, and I loved it. I love to freaking compete. I'm so much of a competitor. I'm over here looking at, I'm rooting for Jay to get his first freaking win. I'm looking at everybody's stuff, man. I'm looking at
a long time, man.
That Pacheco trade, though. Like that was
worked
really
out.
damn good, man. That was a really good trade.
It's funny because if you look at the numbers, they're kind of close, but it's like if I didn't have Pacheco, yeah, I probably wouldn't have made the playoffs. It was just that one move. Like, because some of my games were close. Like I scored a lot of points, but then, I was getting everybody's best game. It felt like I gave up a lot of points too, if that is a thing in fantasy. But Baller told me, "Hey, man, it was, 2 things. It's like half skill and half luck because, Beto" wait, it didn't even know I was in the it's so crazy about Beto, bruh. I think he didn't play I don't think he played like, he played Lawrence, but, it comes back to you, Baller. It's half luck and half skill because he didn't play Lawrence and he didn't there was, like, 2 main guys that were just out that week. He didn't even switch them, and he still won the freaking championship. It was like, you get you it was wild, bruh.
Like,
It was
I
it
was
it
as
was
a
wild.
competitor, I feel bad. Like as a competitor,
As
the
a
fact that someone won the playoffs without someone won the league without even checking, oh my
Bruh,
goodness.
he didn't. Hey, that all I could think about was Baller just saying, like, hey, it's half luck, half skill. Like, you gotta but hey, man, hey, that was full luck. I mean, that was pretty good, Beto. Like he just sat back, ate his freaking, he was eating whatever he was eating on, drinking whatever, and just came out with a damn championship, bro. He got the chain. He won it. Hey, I wanted it too, man. I was trying. I probably made like 75 trades. I'm sure I was leading the league and making moves on. I was
I can
going left.
imagine Phelps every day on the waiver wire doing his thing, every day checking the waiver wire.
Almost. Hey, there was a good
Dude.
couple of week period where I just left it alone for a while, but yeah, for the most part, oh yeah, I
And
was
the Niners
trying my
people
heart
didn't
out.
even check you for the 4 weeks or 3 weeks of the playoffs, and then we end up finding up on the screen. He's like, "Oh shit, I won!"
Man,
Uh,
congrats, Beto. It was hella fun, man. Hey, I enjoyed it. Yeah, we got to get a money one going next year or a couple of them. I don't know because yeah, I'm sold. I'm bought in, so it's only up from here. Uh, man, good stuff, Baller, for integrating it and bringing it to life, man. Props to everybody who played, man. We'll keep this thing rolling. All right, so the rest versus rust. I'm gonna just go ahead and just start it quickly, end it quickly, and say personally, I don't like the middle stuff. So I either want all my guys sitting or none of or all of them playing. I want to either treat it like because I don't want to start tiptoeing because I think that's when injury could happen. I either want my guys playing the whole game and going playing it just like any other game or don't play at all. That's just the way I feel about it, one way or the other. Jay, we'll start with you. How are you feeling about the rust versus rest?
Hey, the Cardinals did us a huge solid. Well, they
All
did.
right,
They did
hey, y'all
two.
gonna have to hold it down for a few minutes.
Okay, okay. Hey, I just want to say the Cardinals, they did us two solids. One by drafting Kyler Murray and not drafting Nick Bosa. That was the first huge solid. And then the second one was beating the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly when the Cardinals really had nothing to play for. So, kudos to them for that victory. Now we can actually rest our players. Obviously, CMC is not going to play. I don't think Trent should play. Kittle, Debo, but then you can't rest everyone. Only 46 guys suit up on game day, so there's only so many guys you can rest. But you figure at least, I don't know, can you get 10 guys, 10 total guys to not play? I think you can because you're gonna bring up some guys like we mentioned, Womack. Maybe Daryl Luter comes in. There's Jason Verrett. So other guys will have to step in place, but it's a blessing. It's a blessing to not have to worry about week 18, as Amin said earlier on in the show, that we don't have to worry about it. We can kick back, relax. Week 18 doesn't matter who wins or loses. So, and then we got the first round bye. NFC runs through Levi Stadium. So I like the rest. I like to rest the players. I can't really be concerned about rest. I would be more concerned if CMC plays and then he gets hurt and we're worried about, we didn't want him to be rusty going on because he's got 3 weeks off. Yeah, I just couldn't I couldn't live with that decision. So I say we rest the players, I should say, and we'll build up we'll build up that what you need in a game. We'll build that up through practice. We'll also build that up. Look at the chain. Look at the chain. That's a nice chain.
Nice. That's nice.
That's a nice chain Beto's gonna be wearing. Hey, but
And
yeah,
I can't put
definitely-
it on either. That's the thing. I never even wore it because I felt like that
you can't.
would just
You
be
can't
wrong because
now.
I hadn't earned it. So I'm not going to put
Exactly.
it on now. But Beto, let me know. We got to link up. I'll send it your way.
That's a nice chain. Beta's gonna have to take a picture. Picture of it.
I'm gonna say it's like that one like when you're in that group project and like that one person that doesn't do anything in the group project and then he ends up and like he doesn't do anything in the group project and like everybody else is doing their thing and yet he still gets the A. But props to you, Beto. Like you drafted the team to do that. So
Yeah, it's funny because he didn't even like Kel said, he didn't play his quarterback, he didn't play a receiver, and then the defense had -1. So literally three players had 0 points. He still won, but hey, sometimes it's luck. But yeah, rest the players. Don't worry about the rest. I'm more concerned about rest and health than I am about rest.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, I don't know how it is around your guys' areas, but yeah, out here in Vallejo, yeah, the explosion should probably continue for a good week. So I don't
I heard
know
there
how
was a sick ass sideshow last
Huh?
night over in Vallejo. Kels,
It doesn't stop, bro.
don't disclose if you
It's
were
every
involved on a
eh,
live stream, but
huh?
we can
Say it
talk
again.
backstage if Kelts was like in the middle of his sideshow. I heard that was going down in the Valley Joe.
No, I just sounded like, two shotguns, just went off right out my front door. So I had to just do my due diligence, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just check it out, make sure the family's cool, let the dogs out, let the pit bull out, let the hunting dog, I got a hunter, I got a German short-haired pointer who is extra aggressive, and I love that and hate it at the same time, but it comes in handy sometimes. Got my pointer in my pit, go sniffing around, make sure everything's good. And yeah, man, it gets wild. The sideshows never stop out here. It's been that way my whole entire 37 years, basically. And the shots fired never stop at the same time. But around New Year's and the especially 4th of July, man, it'll go for like a month. It'll be like a month, bro. It's like no games. It's wild out here. Yeah, if anybody needs to be humbled, come to Vallejo. I'll just leave it at that.
Hey, just real quick on NYCE's comment.
Yeah.
Debo has 871 yards receiving. I don't know about you guys. I don't know how you feel about that, but it's not worth it to me that he plays even a quarter to try to, because he's not going to get 130 like yards in the game versus the Rams. It's not even really important at this point. But
Absolutely. Niner Sickness Podcast. Mexican do get lucky. I just wanted to say it just because we love you, Beto. Rest versus rest. You already know we need the rest. We need full health. Anything because we could utilize practice however we need to stay sharp and do all those kind of things. Hey, we're in prime position, just like someone said earlier in the chat. So yeah, man, that's what I'm pretty sure we're, I wasn't here for some of it, but I'm pretty sure we're all on the same level, just being logical with that one. The toughest opponents, man, and just you know what? Actually, I want to hop to this one. Amin, he alluded to it earlier, like Kyle, like, just what's your guys' now that the regular season is basically done, man, it's playoff time. And this is probably the most concerned I have felt. Not saying that it's just playoffs. Memories start coming back. Coming up short comes back. 0-38, down by 8 in the fourth quarter starts rearing its ugly head. And I start thinking about, when has Kyle ever come through in crunch time? When his Brock Purdy, and being fair to Brock Purdy, he's only played 20 freaking NFL games. It's more about Kyle. But Brock is in the position leading the team. It was Super Bowl aspirations, so he has to be included at the same time. But neither one of them have shown so far that they can do it in crunch time. When you're playing a really good team and you're down, we haven't been able to win that game. Hopefully, we're never down in a game like that. You know what I'm saying? So It's kind of, but that's the one thing that concerns me. I'll just say that when it comes to crunch time, I am confident that this is the year we get it done. But at the same time, I'm not confident in Kyle or Brock in that situation being down versus a really good team. Maybe this is the year where they can prove it and give all of us fans that confident, the Joe Montana comparisons and that extra special X factor that I talk about, the unseen intangibles. We got to see it, Kyle, or hopefully we don't have to see it. Hopefully, there are times where you just not steamroll everybody, but to where you're just front running all the way to hosting, putting up the Lombardi trophy. It's hard. I feel the most confident I've ever felt. And at the same time, little monster comes back and says, "Hey man, I haven't seen it been done from Kyle yet." So I'm worried about that. I'm worried about um making the necessary adjustments at halftime, benching someone if you got to in the spur of a moment, just doing whatever it takes to win. Just reminding myself on just all the times, 2019, just in the Super Bowl and not throwing the ball with Jimmy, throwing the ball 8 times and expecting him to go into a Super Bowl and be on point or whatever it is. Um, Yeah, please tell me what part. Oh, the Vallejo part probably. Yeah, don't stop. But how are you guys feeling about going into these playoffs and in those ugly moments? Like where's your guys' confidence at like on this team? Like, just in crunch time, how you guys feeling about it? We'll start with you, Amin the Dream, and then we'll go to Baller and Jay.
There was comparisons with Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan. And if you remember Andy Reid before Patrick Mahomes, especially with Philadelphia, making it to multiple NFC championship games, not being able to get it done, making it to Super Bowls, not being able to get it done. And then once Andy Reid found that quarterback, he made it to the playoffs with Alex Smith also, but once he found that guy in Patrick Mahomes, that's when he started, winning Super Bowls. And obviously he has the 2 with Mahomes. So in a way, I also feel like Brock Purdy, even though he's played really, really well, and if you really think about it, if we make it to Super Bowl, we end up losing, or whatever the circumstance is, like this is like Brock Purdy's first full playoffs if he's able to stay healthy. He's still such a young kid, but is Brock Purdy, which we all think he's the right guy, we all think he's that guy. In a way, if Kyle Shanahan has that guy in Brock Purdy, will he be able to get it done? With Mahomes and Andy Reid, they were able to get it done. All Chiefs fans think Mahomes is that guy. He is that guy. He ended up being that guy. They ended up getting it done. So with Kyle Shanahan, if we all think Brock Purdy is that guy, and for the most part, I think he is that guy, Kyle Shanahan, can you get it done? You don't have that leash of Jimmy Garoppolo where, you're kind of being held back. With Brock Purdy, you don't have that. So I don't personally think there's an excuse not to make the Super Bowl this year with Brock Purdy and this team. I really don't think there's an excuse not to make the Super Bowl. If you lose in the Super Bowl for whatever the circumstance is, unless you blow another lead, I'm like, as much as it'll sting really, really badly, I'll be like, I get it. But if you don't make it to the Super Bowl and you have a healthy team, I'm gonna be honest. I know it might be a topic, but I think all the teams in the NFC are really, really beatable. And I think when the Niners are playing at their best and when those teams are playing at their best, I think the Niners are like a levels better than the NFC teams. Obviously, against the Ravens, we struggled a little bit. And if we do end up facing the Ravens in the Super Bowl, if we end up losing that, it'll sting depending on what the circumstance is. But I think there's no excuse for Kyle Shanahan, especially if you have that guy, which I think Brock Purdy is, for you not to be able to make it to the Super Bowl. Am I confident in Kyle Shanahan? Obviously, he's had issues in the past, but it's like I don't know how to judge it because it's with a different quarterback. Whereas obviously with Atlanta, he wasn't the head coach. Obviously, with Jimmy Garoppolo, he had some limitations. But with Brock Purdy, I don't really know how to judge the situation because I don't know what he'll do in crunch time with Brock Purdy, with a quarterback that he trusts. But, obviously it is a little bit concerning that, there's some stats out there, he hasn't won a game when he's down by 3 going into the fourth quarter, when you're down by 7 going into the fourth quarter. Am I the only one that's worried about Jake Moody? I know it's like a side topic, but I'm like, you guys are worried about other guys. I don't know why I'm worried about Jake Moody. I feel like even when he kicks like PATs or field goals, it's almost like curving in, and you're like, it might go out, and like it barely sneaks in, and I'm like, like I don't know why I'm like worried about Jake Moody. I feel like if a game comes down to a field goal late in the game, I don't know. I like that's probably one area of concern for me. I feel like we could end up losing a playoff game with Jake Moody game on the line, and he ends up missing it. I hope that's not the case, but that's definitely one area. That's like one player that I'm worried about. I know Baller's worried about Ambry a little bit, but I'm a little bit worried about Jake Moody. But I am more confident with Brock Purdy going into the playoffs this year, and I think Kyle Shanahan has no excuse not to make it to the Super Bowl this year.
And Kyle was so genius. He's already got the rookie, the built-in excuse for with Moody, man. It's like it just never stops. Look at no, I'm kidding. I don't even mean to play devil's advocate because it's just not going to end that way. And if it does, I might have to shave both eyebrows off at this point. But yeah, man, it goes to Baller, man. What's your level of confidence in crunch time with, I guess I could just say just Kyle Shanahan or just the 49ers?
Listen, man, I'm confident, and I did this exercise yesterday. I was thinking, like, is there any head coach I would rather have other than Kyle Shanahan? And I'm thinking even like long term, like considering age, and how long I expect. Like, I think Kyle Shanahan is probably the top candidate for who I would want coaching my team. So yes, I have confidence in him. I got confidence in Brock Purdy. That being said, with Kyle, it ain't all lollipops and butterflies and rainbows in the playoffs, because just when this topic came up, I jotted down a few things that I would second guess about Kyle, whether it's regular season or Super Bowls or playoffs. There was, I forget what game it was, but in the first half there was some time management issues where we could have got the ball back right before halftime with some time on the clock, but they didn't use their timeouts. That's just one example. Also, there was a mismanagement of time in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, right? Again, that was also right before half, where it was, let's get aggressive, let's get some points. But Kyle got super conservative and was just content with, running out the clock and heading in. So there's some areas where I do get critical, and a lot of it has to do with like clock management. I mean, the Super Bowl, I know he's not the head coach, but he is the one calling the plays on offense. The Falcons are up 28-3. They're in field goal range to tack on another field goal, yet he's calling pass plays for Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan gets sacked, takes him out of field goal range. That was one Super Bowl. Going back to the Chiefs, Niners have the lead in the fourth quarter. If Raheem Mostert could pop a couple runs and that clock's ticking down, maybe the game ends differently. So those are just a few things. How about the missed challenge? This was before Brock Purdy got injured against the Eagles, right? That Eagles opening drive, Jalen Hurts threw a ball down the sideline to Devontae Smith. The ball hits the ground. It was not a catch. Talanoa Hufanga saying incomplete. The challenge flag was not thrown. So while I am confident in Kyle Shanahan, and there's not another head coach I would rather have than him, there's something he's got to improve. The critical decision-making, clock management, like instantaneous decisions that need to be made in a split second, Kyle Shanahan's got to improve in that department.
He needs that right-hand man. Somebody
that's supposed to be Anthony Lynn, Kelts.
Yeah, because
right?
Kyle, it needs to be somebody, whoever it is, whoever it's supposed. He just needs to lean. You have to lean on someone because Kyle's the play caller and
don't you know?
and the head coach. So it's like I think sometimes he just has so many things going on in his head. But go ahead, Ami.
But Kelts, isn't he an offensive genius? He's like the smartest guy, best right? So like I feel like he does need someone else, but at the same time, we all know there's a little bit of an ego to Kyle Shanahan, right? So like I feel like I wish he had I wish he was an Anthony Lynn or someone else, but in those situations, I'm also wondering, would a Kyle Shanahan listen to like an Anthony Lynn or someone else? Because Kyle Shanahan does have a little bit of that
just yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I mean, just need to have that one guy, especially in the playoffs, that like, hey, like this is your assignment for this week where he's only paying attention to those 4 or 5 things just to relieve that split second thinking from Kyle when he's already thinking about 3 other things, to where it just because it moves quick. It moves quick. So I'm pretty sure they already have something like that through communication. I would guess you would, but if not, I hope even that inch of just doing whatever it takes, whether it's communication, schematically, vocally, whatever it is, that's all it is. That's all us 49er fans want, man. And when things are brought up, that could be looked at in a negative light, most of the time it's just to see the team improve and do good, unless you're really just trying to stir the pot for just to be a jerk or to get viewings or whatever it is. But anyways, I'm gonna just leave it. My final part is just that this is the year where Kyle shows it's hard to win in the NFL whether you're down and I almost said a Nietzsche. NYC, is that who it was? He was saying just how overinflated that stat is. And I get it, but at the same time, we've come up short, man. The proof is in the pudding, and we've come up short and come up short. And at some point in time, you don't want to be looked at like the Bills in the early 90s and a team that never did it. You know what I'm saying? You gotta kick the door down. You gotta, you know what I'm saying, make the right calls, at some point in time. And I feel like this is the year. And yeah, man, I don't think you touched on it, Jay. How you feeling confidence wise in crunch time in these playoffs coming up?
Yeah, Amin brought up a great point about Jake Moody. But if you look at Jake Moody's stats, he's 21 of 24. He's hit, that's 87% of his field goal kicks. I think the only 2 games he missed were games that we lost, right? Now, there's definitely concern since he's a rookie kicker. Obviously, there's going to be more pressure added to his kicks in the playoffs. But with this talented roster, with this genius of a head coach and Kyle Shanahan, our game shouldn't be left up to a rookie kicker kicking a 50-yard field goal to send us into the next game. Like it shouldn't really come down to that. We shouldn't put Jake Moody in that situation. I'm more of a clean slate kind of guy. I'm not going to relish on the past because I never think it's a one play that lost you the game. Granted, he didn't throw the challenge flag against Philly. Well, Purdy got hurt anyway. Like unfortunately, it didn't really matter. Now when that happens again in the playoffs, what will he do? And I think for me, I'm just leaving that. I'm not dwelling on it. I think the players will make the plays as long as he gets the players in the right position and they do their job. I think everything will, we'll put ourselves in better position to win. I'll say that. My confidence in Shanahan is high at this point. He hasn't gotten it done, but on the other side of failure is success. Like you just have to keep pushing, keep going at your goal, and you continue to fail until you succeed. Mentioned Andy Reid. Hey, he had hella success in Philly, but he just couldn't get it done. He ended up getting fired. He found his quarterback, and now he's two-time Super Bowl champion. So my confidence in Shanahan is high. My confidence in the talent is high. I like to say that CMC, that was the greatest trade in 49er history, or at least since I've been watching the Niners. I don't think we've traded for a better player than CMC and the type of season he's had. But my confidence is high. There's no team in the NFC that really scares me. If we play Baltimore, people are saying Baltimore, and they've had super successful regular seasons before. Hell, Lamar Jackson has won an MVP before, but in the playoffs, he's only won one playoff game. So he's got to prove that he can do it in the playoffs, just like Moody has to prove he can kick, just like Kyle has to prove he can win the big game. So there's a lot to prove, but I'm more of a clean slate. Let's see what you do when that time comes. Have you learned from your previous mistakes? And that's my approach going into it.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think how many damn Super Bowls Tom Brady won that think there's only a few quarterbacks in the NFL right now who have won Super Bowls. You know, it's
Or active.
yeah,
What,
Matt,
Flacco,
yeah, Stafford,
Stafford, Mahomes
Mahomes. You know, I don't know if Nick Foles is still
is
around, but
still in. Yeah.
he isn't doing. You know, but I mean, that just shows how hard it is to do it, man. You know what I'm saying? So good points, Jay and the Bay. And you know, there's hella layers to this thing. It's never
Yeah.
just one thing. There's so many different angles, so many different pieces. Unfortunately, we only got one mouth and we can only say so much at one time. And I think that's kind of what be happening to Kyle sometimes. Like, you know, he's so on point that he wants to be able to control it all because I think he knows that his way is the best way and he's got it the smartest way and the most efficient way. So I think, but I'm sure, he's leaned on guys like Brian Greasy, who Kyle Shanahan has said that's one of the smartest guys he's ever been around his entire life. I'm pretty sure they're communicating here and there on what to do in certain moments and how and why. And so hopefully they just all continue to lean on each other, just like the 49ers team has been doing, just like Ayuk, Amin said it earlier. Like one could argue that all the weapons around Ayuk makes what Ayuk is doing even more impressive. To be able to maximize every opportunity, like Purdy is doing, maximizing every opportunity. I think he got the record with the 49ers, for the most passing yards, and I think he did it in 100 less throws than every single one of the other guys. And I'm just quickly throwing out there, it could even be 130, it could be 90, whatever the exact amount is. But it just shows these guys are maximizing to the fullest. Hopefully Kyle does it too. Hopefully the trust continues to grow. Another thing I wanted to say is when Brock was pointing to Ayuk, you could tell that how much room they got to and grow, or how much more room they can grow with each other. Because when I look at Purdy and all the weapons, it feels like these guys have been around each other for 5 years, but it's only 20 regular season games. But we've seen a couple weeks back where they were off, where Brock and Ayuk was off on a couple of things. And you see here where Brock is like pointing, but he points like twice, kind of like they're double checking in live in real time to go here. He goes there, he throw, and it's just, it's impressive. And it also showed me that there's another level they can get to. You keep doing these kind of things and you're going to grow. So the playoff picture, hey, it's looking like we could see the Eagles and Dallas. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. I still think the Rams are a team, just like I said last week, or I said even before we played the Ravens. I feel like they're going to be our toughest opponent. Obviously, that's not going to be the case the last week of the season, but I wouldn't want to see them or how should I say this? I don't care who we see in the playoffs, but I wouldn't want to see the Rams. Like I feel like the Rams could give us a tougher game than Dallas and the Eagles. The Lions are probably that's kind of something we haven't seen, so I don't know what the hell to expect. I mean, on the surface, I could be like, "Oh man, we could beat the Lions on every level. We're just a little bit better at every level." But hey, the Lions have shown they could get beat by the Bears, but then they can also, throw up 45 points like it ain't nothing. So that's kind of a wild card type team. What is your guys' thoughts about the playoff picture and toughest opponent? We'll just kind of wrap it all together for the 49ers.
Hey, I would agree with you that the Rams, as far as offensively, you look at their running game, Kyron Williams. I mean, where the hell did this guy come from? He's having a hell of a year. I think I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but he leads the league in rushing, but he missed 4 games. That sounds crazy, but I think,
Yep.
yeah,
And I looked at it earlier today. It was like Christian McCaffrey had he leads it with 1,400 rushing yards, and then Kyron
right.
Williams was 1,100, and he missed 5+ games. He was on IR this year.
Yeah, so he's having a hell of a year. We know that we struggle at times with giving up those big gashing run plays. And then when you look at Puka Nacua, you look at Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, I think they have the best complement of weapons offensively. And I know Mooney Ward is having, a great back half of the season, but I can still clearly remember when the guy was getting flagged every other play. So, and that can still happen, especially against going up against guys like I just mentioned with the Rams. So, I think they would present the toughest matchup in trying to stop their weapons. I think they have the best, probably, the best NFC running back outside of CMC. They got the best tandem wide receivers, and then Stafford's playing really well. Philly's got weapons too, but they're not. I mean, how the hell you lose to the Cardinals at home? And Jalen Hurts they put up points. I guess their defense is also an issue as well. So I would agree with Kelts though. The Rams probably would be the toughest, especially since they know us. There's obviously familiarity there, since they're in the division. So yeah, I would say the Rams. The Rams are definitely the toughest, but Dax looks good too. He's having a hell of a year. He's he's in the MVP discussion, but I don't think he can do that against the Niners, and we saw that earlier. So,
hey, the playoff picture setting up beautifully. Just it's looking like, if it were to end today, the Rams versus the Lions with Stafford going to Detroit. I mean, that's going to be hella cool to see who wins that battle, Goff or Stafford. And man, we might be able to see the Eagles on our home turf and fully break them completely in the divisional round. If the playoffs ended today, that's kind of here. Look, I'll just throw it up real quick. This is what it would look like. And of course, stuff can change, but let me try to find it. Yeah, but Baller, who is the toughest opponent, my man?
You
We got
know,
left.
yeah, it's a good question, and I got appropriate fear for the teams in the NFC, but I'm really not scared of any of them. If I'm going to be honest, if I were to look at one team and say, I like you guys bringing up the Rams because Stafford and Puka and Cooper, they do have the quick passing game to kind of negate the pass rush. Kyron Williams looked really good, so I get that. I'd probably say, as much as we've owned Dallas, that the defensive line and that defense is really freaking good. They could generate a few turnovers or at least a couple, and then that, turnovers as we've seen on Christmas can be backbreakers. So I would probably say the Cowboys are the team, just with that defense and that pass rush and ability to force turnovers. Deron Bland's picked off a bunch of balls and he's running the other way. That being said, it's like, do I fear Dallas? Like, not really. But if you're going to make me choose one, I would probably go Dallas, closely followed by the Rams. And the Eagles, like, I'm not going to write them off. They haven't looked good lately, but you still need to bring everything you've got, because when you got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, DeAndre Swift has looked good at times. So I got appropriate respect for all the teams in the NFC, but let's be honest, man. This is the Niners' NFC to lose. If they play their A game, they're beating every single one of these teams, and probably by double digits.
Straight mollywhopping, folks. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's looking, hey, bro, it looks like, man, I would love that. If I could draw it up the way I would want, just for how the years went, to be able to whoop the Eagles and Dallas again, or even the Rams. Like, at this point, I think the least satisfying win would probably, no win is going to be unsatisfying. How do I say this? The Lions. It would be, but if we beat any one of the other three teams, assuming that those are the teams that will advance and do what they got to do to see us, and hey, we still got to do what we got to do. Nothing is given in this league. But so I'm great. I like how you brought that up, Baller, that you can't sleep on the Eagles regardless of what they've done. They proved last year, regardless of how they did it, that hey, they got to the Super Bowl and they played a hell of a game in that Super Bowl. So they could wake up at any time, and but it would be lovely to see us whoop the Eagles. And then, like Debo said to Micah Parsons, be careful. It's going to be worse than 42-10. He said something along those lines. So that would be freaking amazing if that came to fruition, like my man Jay likes to say. But yeah, man, did everybody touch on the toughest opponent? What did it mean?
I'm gonna go with the Rams number one, but it is close between the Dallas and the Rams. I feel like the Rams offensively with Puka, Cooper Kupp, obviously Kyron Williams, who's been great this year, and the Niners have been struggling a little bit with their run defense. That team, obviously kind of concerns me a little bit, but not too much, right? But obviously a little bit concerned. But you know what? Usually when we do play the Rams, Matthew Stafford has a couple of those interceptions, those back-breaking interceptions, and you're like, all right, and that usually helps the Niners, and the Niners end up pulling it away. But the Rams are definitely. Let's put it like this: I'm not gonna say 1 and 2, but I would say the Rams are like 1A and the Cowboys 1B, like something like that, where it's like 1A, 1B. The Cowboys with that defense, you obviously have Deron Bland, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, who's underrated. They got some talent over there, so obviously the Cowboys worry me a little bit, but at the same time, that Dallas offense, honestly, I think that Dallas offense is garbage. I really think that Dallas offense is not that good. Even when you look at in the red zone, when they do make it to the red zone, they're not really that good at converting it into touchdowns. That's why Brandon Aubrey, I think is their kicker, has like 30 made field goals this year. So they do get into the red zone. But like watching some Cowboys games this year, I'm like, damn, they can't convert. And maybe it's because I have CeeDee Lamb in my fantasy league. Unless he like breaks away for like a 50-yard touchdown like he did against the Lions and the Dolphins, like I'll get my notification that Dallas Cowboys are in the red zone. CeeDee Lamb is in the red zone, and then I'm like, damn it, another field goal! Like, come on, y'all get there, y'all get my hopes up, and I'm expecting a CeeDee Lamb touchdown. I even got their tight end in fantasy, and I'm like, I'm expecting a touchdown. I got 2 guys on my team right now, and y'all are kicking field goals. Like, what's going on? But yeah, that offense I really don't think is that great. Regardless of what talent they have, I don't really think that offense is that great. The Eagles, they were still a really darn good team. They looked invincible the first couple of weeks of the season, and then they obviously kind of fell off recently. But who knows, man? Any given Sunday, if your team clicks at the right time and the Eagles start, going back to their old self, I wouldn't sleep on the Eagles. And then the Lions. The Lions have a really good defense, but Jared Goff, I mean, we've beaten Jared Goff with the Rams before. Even though he has good games and he has good stretches where he plays really well, there are stretches where he does have interceptions, where he does make questionable decisions. I'm actually not scared to play the Lions. I'm not worried about them. Even though we haven't played them before, I'm not really worried about the Lions as much because I don't really think Jared Goff is all that. I really don't. But bottom line is this: when the Niners are playing their best ball, and when these NFC teams are playing their best ball, there's levels to this. Like there's levels to this game, and when the Niners are playing at their best, I think they're better than every NFC team by a pretty darn good margin. And that's me being humble. Right? Like they're pretty good they're like way better by a good margin. But if we're really being honest, we mollywopped like Kel says, we mollywopped the Cowboys, we mollywopped the Eagles. We haven't played the Lions, and then we've beaten the Rams in the regular season like 8 times in a row, 9 times in a row. Like, so I ain't really worried about these teams. But obviously, any given Sunday, and there are strengths to these other teams. But if the Niners are playing their best ball, I'm not really worried, except for obviously the Ravens if they do make it that far to the Super Bowl, which we all hope that they do. But besides that, this NFC is not really something I should be worried about. As long as the Niners come out and don't shoot themselves in the foot, I think we have a pretty easy path to the Super Bowl.
And I'll just quickly say on the AFC side, it's obvious with the Ravens. But besides the Ravens, I think the team that I'm worried about the most is the Browns. I'm worried about the teams with the best defense. I'm worried about the teams with that does the best in the trenches. I'm not looking for the spectacular Patrick Mahomes names because I'm just worried about the teams that match up with the 49ers. And the things that we have not done well with is the physicality of those teams in, the North. But, with the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Browns and the Ravens and, who's the other team over there that
Steelers. We beat the Steelers, though.
Yeah, but just those tough teams, those teams that ain't gonna, I feel like sometimes those smart teams and tough teams, well-coached teams, and I feel like someone like the Bills, I could see Josh Allen making a couple of mistakes that are crucial and we could win that game. I could see, us playing a Mahomes and them dropping a couple of balls, or maybe they don't get a good call from the ref and them crying about it. I could see those things happening with a lot of the other teams or the Dolphins. But, us being able to match their points and us I've seen the Dolphins when they do face tougher teams, it's a lot like us. It feels like they fold, but we don't fold. We're not getting mollywopped. We're just, we've had other issues on top of other teams being physical with us. It kind of all came at the wrong time for the times I'm talking about. So those are the teams I wouldn't want to see, but at the same time, I want to face the best. To be the best, you got to beat the best. So however it comes to, however the story ends, those are the teams I would consider myself worried the most about. Even though, man, like Baller said, hey, we are the best team. And when we're clicking on all cylinders, I'm not worried about not nobody. Hopefully we get to see full cylinders, the Nas, hopefully we get to see it all. Hopefully that's the one thing I'll pray for, is that we get to see a full squad with no excuses. And if we lose, it was because the other team was better, man. I just hope we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. And that'll be my closing statements on top of it. We appreciate everybody who tuned in. Much love. Love doing this every Monday night. We'll continue every Monday night. So tap in, hit everybody up on the likes, subscribes, all those kind of things. Much love to everybody. And we'll just go around the table. Hit it up, Jay.
Yeah, huge shout out to everyone that came through, supported us tonight. Happy New Year again to everyone. I'm looking forward to seeing, hopefully, Deebo Samuel and that wide back. Hopefully we see more of that in the playoffs, maybe a few less carries, even if it's 3 to 5 less carries of CMC, give it to Deebo. I think that would help to, create. I mean, he's the most physical player on offense, Deebo, I feel. Hardest to bring down. So hopefully we see that in the playoffs. Haven't really seen him do that much of that in the regular season, but it's playoffs and it's one game and you go home. So hopefully we lay it out on the line. But always a pleasure doing the show with you, gentlemen. Looking forward to next Monday night, and appreciate everyone tuning in. And a happy New Year's to everyone again.
Yeah, I mean,
I got 2 things to say.
Oh,
One, one of my other teams, the Lakers, they got their in-season tournament championship. So now I just want my
Mute his ass. Mute his ass.
Oh no.
I don't know why does he always try it? He already knows.
Right, now we gotta go 2 for 2.
I know Beto. I know Beto's over there laughing.
Lakers
Beto,
got it done now. The Niners got to get it done also. And the Lakers, we still got to win the chip this year. Like, I don't care about no. I'll get booted. And then lastly, bang bang Niner.
Bang bang Niner game, baby. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, man. Damn Lakers. Thank you, Amin, because he dipped out. He said, "You know what? You ain't taking me off. I'm dipping." Did I do that or he did that?
Maybe he did it.
I might have did it. My bad. My bad, bro.
See, anytime I mention the Lakers, y'all are just like, get him out of here.
Get out. Zach. All right. So, any thoughts on Zach Wilson? Baller, go. No, I'm kidding.
Zach Wilson. Hey, man, there's still a chance. Still a chance.
There's a chance.
If Sam Darnold goes on to greener pastures, I wouldn't mind. At the minimum, I'm not paying Zach Wilson money. At the minimum, wouldn't mind bringing him in. Hey, learn from Brock Purdy. Sit behind Brock. Lower your ego and learn from Brock. It would do wonders for Zach Wilson.
He's Mormon, right? I think
Let's
Steve
get back
Young was
to these
Mormon.
Niners, because what I want to say is, this is Super Bowl or bust, fellas. It's Super Bowl or bust. Super Bowl window is right now. The Niners are sitting exactly where they wanted to be. They got the bye. They got home field. It ain't going to be easy, but this team, as I've said, I truly feel like this team is destined to get that Super Bowl, to get that Lombardi trophy, but it's not going to be handed to us. You got to execute. You got to be locked in. You got to be focused. And when this team plays their brand of football with this quarterback we got, with these weapons, with this defense, it's inevitable, fellas. It's about time. The Lombardi's on the way. Keep it up. Hey, fellas, love breaking down the games with you each and every Monday. The chat was live tonight. Thank all you guys for showing up and tuning in. And can't wait to talk to y'all next week.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's all of us, huh? Hey, we all hit it up. Hey, like Amin said, bang bang, Niner.
No,
freaking-
Pop, I thought you were gonna say go Lakers. That was like
Oh,
I mean,
hell,
go Lakers.
Let him get
hell,
another one in.
hell to the nah.
Let him
All right,
time
y'all.
out. I mean,
Yee.
go in the corner.
Straight out of the bay. Bang, bang,
Amin, hit it up, bro.
Bang bang Niner.
bang, bang.